As your practice grows, it's so important to be able to stay organized and keep on top of things, especially when it comes to documentation, filing insurance claims, keeping appointments straight, and getting reminders to people. Well, there's a great solution for all of that, and that is TherapyNotes. TherapyNotes is the leading electronic health record system for mental health providers. It's who I use in my practice. And so go check them out today, therapynotes.com. And if you use the coupon code Gordon, just GORDON, you can get 2 months free. So check them out today, therapynotes.com. This is the Practice of Therapy podcast with Gordon Brewer, helping you to navigate your private practice journey. This is session number 114 of the Practice of Therapy podcast. Hello, folks. I'm Gordon Brewer, and I'm glad you're listening to the podcast. If this is your first time listening in, welcome. Glad you found us. Glad you're here. And if you're coming back for more, glad you're back. And I hope you've taken time to subscribe to the podcast wherever you might be listening to it. Well, happy February. This episode's coming out the first week of February, and I hope that your Super Bowl team won. As I'm recording this, we're prior to the Super Bowl, but I know it's coming up this weekend, and I'm looking forward to getting together with some friends and just cheering on our teams. I don't know who's going to win, but anyway, I hope your team won as you're listening to this. So I'm really looking forward to you also hearing from our guest today. I've got a repeat guest, my friend Daniel Fava from Private Practice Elevation podcast is with me today. Daniel was one of the first guests I had on the podcast way back when we started the podcast back in 2017. And so I'm glad to have Daniel back, and he's going to be telling us about 5 things that every website should be doing, private practice website should be doing, and maybe some easy things that you can do to kind of boost your ratings and make sure you're found, because one of the most important marketing tools that you've got is your website. So Daniel's superpower is just website design and putting all that together. And so I'm looking forward to you hearing from Daniel. But before we get to that, one of the things too I wanted to get your help with, and this is really again, just asking for your help and asking a favor of you. I've put together a survey that's a very short survey. And when I say short, 2 minutes or less to take the survey. And it's around focus groups and mastermind groups. I'm wanting to do some more mastermind groups or focus groups, however you'd like to refer to that, this year, and plan on starting some up in March. But I really would like to get your feedback on what sort of group you're looking for. I'm really thinking about how I should restructure things and how we should put the groups together. And I was thinking in terms of just organizing them around different topic areas that people might be interested in. For example, those people that might want some help with their finances and the financial side of private practice. Also, maybe folks that are looking for just becoming more organized in their practice and kind of beating the overwhelm, as I like to call it. But also maybe folks that are thinking about marketing and really looking for better ways to market their practice. So anyway, I'm in those beginning stages, planning stages of putting all this together, and I'd really love to get your feedback. So if you'll go to practiceoftherapy.com, and if you'll go over to where the tab that's there on masterminds, If you'll click on that tab, you'll see a link at the top of that next page with just a link to take the survey. And for those of you that are on my email list, you've gotten an email from me last Friday just about that. And if you haven't deleted the email already, go back and just click on the link in there and take the survey for me, because the more information I get, the better I know how to organize all of this. But anyway, that's going to be coming up, just some more mastermind groups, which if you're not familiar with a mastermind group or a focus group, it's really a way for like-minded people to get together and just get support and network and problem solve with each other. And every time I have been in a mastermind group or a focus group, it has just absolutely helped me so much, and my practice has grown. So that's my whole purpose in doing these, and just really giving people a resource that's affordable and just also very focused and meaningful in just this whole private practice journey. So anyway, enough about that. I'll commend that to you. If you'll just go to practiceoftherapy.com, click on the Mastermind tab, and you can see at the top there a link to take the survey. So I absolutely appreciate you doing that for me. The other thing I want to mention before we get to Daniel is you'll also, for those of you on my email list, apologize a little bit for sending out so many emails here the next coming weeks, but anyway, I'm doing it anyway. But anyway, my friend David Hall, who was on last week's podcast, episode number 113, David talked about how to get started with doing CE events or continuing education events. And I think it's a topic that a lot of people are really interested in. But David is doing a relaunch of, or a launch of his course on this particular topic, on how to conduct a profitable continuing education event. And it's a great idea for folks that are looking for ways to bring in some extra income for themselves or diversifying their income streams within their practice. But that cart is, or the cart or the course is going to be available for registration for just 14 days. So from the date of this particular podcast episode, it's going to be open until February the 17th. So there'll be links in the show notes here and also on the show page for this particular episode to get you to that. And also, if you're on the email list, you'll be getting links to that. And David's being very generous and offering a discount for the course. And if you'll use the coupon code Gordon 2020 for that particular course, you can get 20% off the registration or the enrollment of that course. If you also, I'll go ahead and say this, I haven't put it up there yet, but if you'll go to practiceoftherapy.com/CE course, just CE course, you could also get to that. So anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that. And, but anyway, glad you're with me. Glad Daniel's with me today. So without further ado, here's my friend Daniel Fava and 5 ways to improve your private practice website. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome again to the Practice of Therapy podcast. And I'm so happy to have again with me Daniel Fava. And Daniel was one of the earlier guests that I had on the podcast. And glad to have you back, Daniel.
Yeah, super excited to be here. Always fun to catch up with old friends, and looks like you've been very busy. And we I know we follow each other. We see each other, online and Instagram. Yes. I always see your posts and the topics you're discussing. So super excited to hang out today.
Yeah, I'm glad. And just a little backstory here. Daniel is just so gracious to be back here because we recorded actually before the holidays, and I had a snafu with my computer where it crashed, and so I lost the recording. So this is a redo. So I'm glad Daniel's here today. But yeah, Daniel's correct. We've done a lot of following of each other. He's got a wonderful podcast, so I'd really commend that to you. Private Practice Elevation. Is that?
Yep.
Did I say that correct?
Yep. And that's the name.
Yeah, and so it's a great podcast and got a lot of great info on there that he does. So check it out. But today we're going to be talking about something that I think really one of Daniel's superpowers is just really around websites. And I guess maybe first, Daniel, I'd like for you to tell people just a little bit about your background and how you got into this. And then we're going to talk about just 5 ways you can improve your website, or what every therapist should have on their website.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so my name's Daniel, and I live with my wife and our soon-to-be 3-year-old. He'll be 3 in 2 weeks. So we've got a very rambunctious and fun household going on right now. So my wife is in private practice, and that's really how I got my start in this. I mean, I've been working on websites and just geeking out on website design since I was in college, since 2001. The first website I built was for my punk rock band in college, up on Long Island, New York. So I'm from Long Island, born and raised, but we live in Atlanta now. And so really my story started, as it pertains to helping therapists and private practice owners with their websites, really started with my wife, because in end of 2011, I believe it was, she launched into private practice. And so she was in that place of getting things started. And once she got that first, she worked at a group practice, but her practice was really her own. It was up to her to really market. And so I said, okay, it's go time. We get to create a website for you. And I had been using WordPress for years for my own websites, and just for fun. And so it was time to really put that knowledge to work. And so we built a website for her, and really saw just some great momentum start from that first website. And being so passionate about art and design, we put a lot into that website. And it wasn't super fancy, but at the time it looked so different than so many of the therapist websites out there, which were really quite terrible as we started digging into websites. And
Right.
People have come a very long way. People are much more educated now, and thanks to Squarespace and lots of great folks like myself just helping therapists with design, people have come a long way. But at the time it really stood out. And so she got some of her first clients because people would come in and say, I was looking at maybe 3 other therapists, but I just really loved your website. It really spoke to me. It was attractive. It was easy to use, and it created connection, with those folks. And so it was just like, okay, that's awesome. Like it's actually working. And then fast forward, a few years, I was working 9 to 5 I worked for a nonprofit called CARE, which is headquartered in Atlanta. Worked with them for about it was like 5 years, and just really got the itch to start my own thing. I've always been entrepreneurial and coming up with ideas for businesses since I was a kid. And so just decided to put my website knowledge to use, and had so many of my wife's colleagues ask if I could build them a website. But I was just like, no, I don't really have time. I'm not really looking for the side hustle thing. But then over time, I got the bug, and so just started sharing my knowledge and blogging, and building a website and reaching an audience. And now it's going on about 4 years now, and it's wow. Super super fun. Just really love working with our clients to launch their websites, and I also do. We have online training, so people if their budget is a little bit smaller, I teach the essentials of website design and using WordPress, and then we also have done for you online marketing services at Private Practice Elevation.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And really for me, Daniel, you're my go-to, my go-to resource around for folks that are really interested in doing more DIY with their website, because your way of teaching it and sharing all of that is spot on in my way of thinking. So,
Oh, thank you.
yeah,
I appreciate it.
Yeah. So one of the things that I think, it's interesting. You told the story about just looking at websites, and one of the things that I know that I do when I do consulting with folks, one of the things I do want to do is look at their website just to see, how they're presenting themselves, because our website to me is our front door. And here in the 21st century, if you don't have a website, unless you've just got just tons of outside referral sources,
right.
That's where people go to first. And I know even for my own practice, I was one of those people that adopted a website early on. I'm aging myself, but I think because I put my website up before there were many therapists that even had websites. And so it's really kind of stuck with me, and the time has paid off in that sense. But anyway, tell folks a little bit about you've got a handout, a cheat sheet, I guess you would call it.
Yeah. Yep.
And we're going to talk about that today.
Yeah. So it's a PDF guide. It's not quite an ebook, but it's not quite just a one pager. So it's a handy guide, and I'm sure you'll put the link in the show notes that everybody can get.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
Really, we're going to talk about 5 things that anyone can do, with their website. That's going to create some improvements and some momentum, and really attract more clients to their private practices. And really, my goal for putting this PDF together was really to look at some of the common things that I talk to people with the consultation calls, the website strategy calls that I do, just the common things that come up that I see a lot, over and over. So that's really what we're going to talk about today. And there's bits and pieces that you can take away from each of these 5 points. And they're all free, and things that you can do that you can implement in your practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's jump in. What's the first one you've got in mind?
Yeah. So the first thing is to really, before you do anything, you need to be really specific with the goals that you have for your practice, and even more nuanced than just having goals. I mean, everybody's got goals for their practice, but really, how does it pertain to your ideal client that you want to attract to your business? So thinking about, if you want to attract 10 new clients in maybe the next 6 months, what would those clients look like? Who would those clients really look like? When I'm sorry, I'm babbling here, but what did I want to say? So take a look.
Ideal client.
Sorry, It's still early for me. I'm still drinking my coffee.
Yeah.
So take a looking at your ideal client, and just the people that you love to work with. Who are the ones who pay the rate you love, who give you the least amount of grief, and you just enjoy working with them. So who is that existing client that you have? How can you replicate them? And then setting those goals to say, I want to have 10 more of this type of client in my practice in the next 6 months. So once you have that identified, who that is, then you can come to your website, and you want to really start looking at your website and really look through the eyes of that existing client, and think, do the images really speak to that client? Do the words that I'm using speak to that client? And really start targeting in just the type of client that you want to work with.
Right. Yeah. And it's I think that's one of the things that we in this kind of in this whole big niche of private practice building, that's one theme that you're going to hear from everybody is identify your niche, identify your ideal client, the people that you work with best. And I like that. So yeah.
And once you do that, it really, I've found it helps with copywriting. It helps with design so much, because you're not being general. Right. And I know I'll just play devil's advocate here. I know we get a lot of pushback, from people who are like, I don't really have a niche yet. I'm not totally sure what that is. But, I'm sure that there are subjects you like to cover in your practice. There's probably a few clients that you do like working with, or a few challenges that you help your clients solve. So focus on those things. And, your homepage can be a bit more general, but on your homepage, you're going to want to list those services that you have. So if you have couples counseling, or you help couples when there's been infidelity, like, create a landing page, a specific landing page for that. Because on that page, you can speak so specifically to those people, where they're at, the pain that they're going through, and then connect that to the homepage. So your homepage might be a little bit more general, but there's got to be those buckets on your website that are specific to specific people that you work with. And that just helps with SEO, and it helps with writing great copy that's going to be really engaging and pull in that ideal client.
Right. So, so what's number 2 with this, in thinking about?
I just want to say before we move on is if you're, that's fine. If you're in that place where you're not really sure if your website speaks to your ideal client, really the takeaway from this step, and I have little homework tidbits for each of these steps, but it's do your own website audit. Like, just go through and look through the lens of each of your ideal clients, and just kind of audit, how does that language look? How do the images look? Does it really speak to that client?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
All right. So number 2 is to just simply ask your website visitors to take an action. This definitely comes up a lot in the coaching calls that I do, and with my students in our WordPress building course. Where there's just no call to action. There's a lot of information. I think therapists are great with writing and filling the website with a lot of information, but there has to be this point where you ask somebody to do something. And in the ebook, you'll see that there's just this funny little example of, people don't tend to go into, let's say like Old Navy and say, hey, where do I sign up for your rewards program? But anytime you check out, they're going to ask you, are you a rewards member? Or, at pretty much any of these stores now, that are you on a rewards club? What do you want to be? And so if they didn't ask that question, you probably wouldn't sign up for the rewards. You wouldn't take the time to do it. But sometimes, it takes just like a minute to give your information. And because they asked you, you take the next step. So the takeaway from that is just to make sure that you have very clear calls to action on your website. And I like to have one specific, large, engaging call to action on each page. So you want to think about like, what's the one, the greatest step that someone can take to work with you, that next step. A lot of people that we work with, they do a free phone consultation. So you want to make sure that on every single page, you've got that, schedule your free 15-minute phone consultation with a nice big button that says, let's talk, or schedule now. And that could even just link to a contact form. But on every page, they know what they need to do in order to take that next step.
Right. And one of the things, if you're using WordPress, there are a lot of what they call plugins available to where you can do actually a pop-up. And as much as those are sometimes irritating to me on a website, they are very effective in getting people to take action with something. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a little controversial because like, I don't want to annoy people and send them away. But, a lot of those pop-ups too, you can set them to appear once to the same user, and maybe it doesn't show up again for another couple weeks. So, and really like sort of the psychological flip side to that is that you're trying to reach people, and so you don't have to be flashy and like, here's my free thing, download it now. But you do want to, make sure that everything is, framed in that sort of spirit of service. You're trying to serve your audience. You want to help them. You want to get them one step closer to solving those challenges and problems that they have in their life. So, but yeah, it does take a lot of the conversion rates are usually low on those pop-ups, so it takes some time and to get some of that data over time. But if somebody is testing that out, just be encouraged that those conversion rates are usually low, but over time that actually does add up to a lot of conversions.
Right. So, so what's the next one you've got?
So don't forget the homework, Gordon.
Oh, yes. Okay.
So the homework is go through each page of your website and really think like what's the one call to action that I want on this page. And I mentioned that there's probably that one main call to action, like a free consultation, and that I encourage people to put that up in their like top menu, like top right, nice button that says free consultation. But on the bottom of each page, and sometimes sprinkled throughout the page, you want to have those calls to action, and don't make them just little text links. Like you're changing the conversation in a way. So there could be a whole page about couples counseling, and then a nice section on the bottom, bold, that says, if you're ready to start couples counseling, schedule your free consultation. Here's a button. So go through the website, take stock of the calls to action that you're using. We've seen just a great increase of conversions just by adding more calls to action on websites. We even we just launched a website about 2 weeks ago for a client, and she was on one of those I won't name them, one of those subscription services for therapists for her website, and she said, I have had no conversions in 3 years on her website. The website was just sitting there. So we redesigned her website, made sure there was plenty of calls to action, and in about a week she had 2 conversions, 2 new inquiries on her website. So it sounds strange to just say like just put calls to action on your website, but it does work. Just you have not because you asked not, so you have to ask somebody to take work. So that's the homework there. And so number 3 is to make sure that your website can be found in Google. And I know that this is a big conversation, and we could probably go down really far into the weeds with Google, but really just the starting point of this is just to make sure that your website is indexed by Google. Because sometimes people just don't know, like, is my website actually showing up on Google? And the way that you test that is to just go to Google, and you can just type in the word site, SITE, and then put your domain, and it'll show all the pages that Google has already indexed on your website. So at least you know, like, okay, the website is appearing in Google. And I'll kind of let you lead, Gordon, if you have any follow-up questions on SEO.
Yeah, that's a great.
It's a big question, and you probably know your audience better than I do. Any questions you've been asked?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things is that, and this just jumped, like you said, we could get into a whole area just around Google and SEO and that sort of thing. And I think what one of the things that I've found is that you want your site. I think one of the things that I've learned is just put quality stuff up there, and Google picks up on that. And so you just want to think about, like you've already said, think about your audience, think about who you're trying to attract to your website, and what would be appealing to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And really one sort of way that you can kind of hack that is think about what are the keywords that you want to rank for, type those into Google, and take a look at like the first 3 pages or so, 3 links that are listed on Google. After, like, usually like Psychology Today will probably come up first because it's just a huge website. But the first 1 to 3 links that are actually maybe other private practices similar to yours, and look at those pages and look what they're doing. Look at how much content they have on that page, and think about, how can I make a page like this have more information, be better, load better, have the keywords in the right place. So ways you can do that is make sure that you've got more images on the website, that those images have alt text that have your keywords in there, and also even just putting some video on the website. Like, Google can't crawl through the video and see the content, but Google will see that there's media on that page, and so it kind of raises the value of it. And so things like that's kind of a way that you can kind of hack your content and kind of retrofit instead of just guessing, like, is this page going to actually rank? You definitely need to know like how to do some on-page SEO stuff and where your keywords should appear. If you're on WordPress, we use Yoast SEO, helps go through the content, tells us what needs to improve. So there's that aspect, but then you can also look at what other people are doing and just make your content better.
Yeah. And I think another thing too, that I noticed when, with my own practice website, kingsportcounseling.com, I purposely put the name of the town and the word counseling together. Unfortunately, that was that URL was available. And when I formed my LLC, I approached it from a URL standpoint.
Yeah.
In terms of, okay, if I can get this URL, what would I name my practice? And I think having your location, your town in there, I think just helps as well. So anytime somebody looks up in my town anything about counseling and puts the name Kingsport in there, it's going to come up on, at the top of the page. So
that's great.
And that's what you're talking about in terms of keywords.
Yeah. So having your keyword in the domain, and that could come down to specific pages, making sure like couples counseling Kingsport, is the domain for that page. But yeah, that's a great idea, is having your location in the domain, and also just that your location is in the name of your practice. It's probably appearing throughout your website all over the place, repeated over and over. Every time you create a new page, I'm guessing it's probably in like your meta descriptions and titles and and all that stuff. So yeah, over time, Google sees that.
Yeah. So
So
number 4,
the homework from that is just to make sure that your website's indexed. And if it is, start to look at some of that other content that's out there that's ranking well for those keywords that you want to rank for.
Yeah. Good.
Cool. So number 4, moving along here, is get your content shared. And this goes back to what you said, Gordon, about having quality content. And really where you want to start with this is when you create a blog post or you create a PDF or a video for your potential clients, you want to make that really high quality. And really give people a reason to share your content and come back to your website, and really PDF downloads that in like a little ebook or just something free. Like often we use those for opt-ins, for an email list. But if you're not building an email list and you just want to be helpful, you want to be in service to your ideal clients, you can create, a PDF and just have it as a link on your website that people can download this, this thing that they can do. That's it's next step, but it's not as far as taking them to that free consultation, so it's kind of, people kind of say like it's comparing dating somebody to asking them to marry you, so you're asking them to marry you, and you say like, okay, start counseling now, schedule your free consultation, or if you're not ready for that, download this free PDF, and in that PDF you want to build that, something that's super helpful that people are going to take some takeaways. And this is kind of meta here because that's what we're doing right now. We're walking through a PDF that we created, that we have on Private Practice Elevation, that's meant to be something that's useful. People can get some quick free takeaways, and it creates that connection. It gets people used to how you speak and how you write, but it's going to take them a little further than the information that's on the website.
Right.
So you want to think about your ideal clients again, and think about the challenges they face, and like what's a quick way that you can help them where they're at now, to create a win for their life. A good example of this was one of our recent clients. She does coaching for aging adults. It's the name of her business. So she helps caregivers with counseling and coaching. So people who are taking care of maybe their elderly mother or brother. And so she created this toolkit that was like this super long checklist of here's everything you need to do to get your life in order, and all the emergency numbers that you need to call. This is their doctor's office. This is their Medicare information. So making sure that you're compiling. She's helping people compile this sort of emergency checklist, and just for reference to make their life easier in case something does happen to their elderly loved one.
Right.
And so she packed that little toolkit with a bunch of information, and she gives that away on her website. So which is super helpful for her ideal client.
Right. And to kind of piggyback on that, one of the things, and you might be getting to this, is just the importance of blogging. I know a lot of people just aren't real keen on that, but that is one of the best ways to get your ranking up, is to have, just a ton of relevant content that's really geared towards your ideal client and the problems they're having. And so those things will come up.
Right. Yeah, and that's a great point there, because those are those are links that are easy to share on social media. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if you have a great blog post that somebody found really helpful, and they know someone else who's maybe in a similar, you know, life phase or going through a similar challenge, they might take that link from your website and say, "Hey, this person wrote this blog post here,"
Right.
and that could get more shares on Pinterest, LinkedIn, you know, whatever, and that can also help your SEO too, having some, you know, social media linking over to your stuff. Google does take that into account as well.
Yeah, good. So what's the homework on that one?
So the homework is just to create one piece of content, and that's, you know, super specific and helps your client solve one problem, and share that on social platforms. Get it out there. If you have an email list already, you can always just create a new PDF, and then send it out to your list. It doesn't have to be a PDF. It could be, you know, in-depth video, whatever it is, just something super helpful. You can send that out to your email list, send it out to your social media followers, or just put it on your website for the future.
Right, right. Great. Okay.
All right. So number 5 is measure what you're doing, and so this is something that you'll want to do with all your anything that you do with marketing. It's hard to grow something that you're not actually measuring. So a lot of the times, you know, I consult with people and they say, you know, I'm not getting enough clients from my website. What's the deal? And so I always start with, okay, so what do your Google Analytics say? How much traffic is coming to your website? They're like, oh, I don't have Google Analytics on my website.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, so how do we know whether it's a issue with traffic, or it's an issue with your calls to action, or it's an issue with how you perform on your free consultation calls? You know, so you want to start measuring those things. And so Google Analytics is free to install on your website. And so you can just go to analytics.google.com and set that up. They'll give you a piece of code. And then, you know, whatever platform you're on, you can just kind of head to Google and say, where do I put Google Analytics code for Squarespace or WordPress?
Mm-hmm.
And so follow those steps, get that on there. Even if you're not really even planning to look at it just now, just have it going, get the data in there. And then you can always take that data, you know, when you do something like a consultation call, or you're hiring somebody to redesign your website, you can give them that data, because it gives them a great place to start and understand what needs to change. Where's traffic coming from? Which pages on your website are getting the most hits, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so I also encourage people to just start pretty simple when it comes to measurements. So measure, you know, how many page views is your website getting, and then measure how many client inquiries are you getting. You can do this monthly, you know, just like a spreadsheet. How many consultation calls are you having? How many people are actually becoming clients? And then over time, you take those numbers and you look at the conversions between each of those steps, and then you can decide, okay, maybe for the next 6 months, I want to focus on increasing traffic, because really,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of that whole funnel analogy. The more people go into the top of the funnel, you know, the more people are going to come out as clients on the other side. So that's usually a good place to start. But
Right.
you could have a lot of great traffic to your website, but for some reason people aren't converting. And so that shows you, okay, I need to look at, what do my calls to action look like? Are they prominent? That sort of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And it also can kind of give you a clue, you know, for things on the back end of, you know, just offline kind of stuff. You know, if somebody is actually calling you, but you're not able to get to them quickly enough, they might choose somebody else.
Right.
And so those are just all things. The other thing that I'll throw in there, Daniel, is you know, sometimes low tech solutions are just as valuable. And
Yeah.
the low tech solution about knowing about your website is just to ask people. That's one of the things with all of my new clients. Ask them, well, how did you find out about us?
Yeah.
You know, in the first session, you know, I don't really record that data, but I would say, if I were to think about it, probably 90% of the people that come to us because of our website. They found us online, and so that's a good way to kind of know those things.
Yeah, yeah. You won't know what's working unless you're collecting some of that information. So that's a great way. I know a lot of people do that, where you just ask, how did you find us? That's always a great starting point.
Right, right. So the homework with that would be
just to make sure that you have Google Analytics installed, and start tracking this stuff every month. Just start tracking what are your numbers looking like, and that'll give you a good sense of what you need to focus on when it comes to your marketing. And you don't want to start investing any money into marketing until you know a little bit about where that money should go.
right.
So
right.
yeah, so tracking stuff, measuring stuff is a great place to start with all of this online marketing stuff we're talking about.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. So those are the 5, right? So
those are the 5.
Yeah. So the first one, remind me again, was just making sure that you've got
making
a call
sure
to
that
action.
The first one was get specific with your goals and your ideal client. So really taking a look at, does your website speak to your ideal client or clients on the different landing pages you have? Number 2, ask your website visitors to take action. So we talked about making sure that you've got prominent calls to action. And if somebody downloads the PDF, we have a couple examples in there just to inspire you. And then number 3, make sure you're found on Google. And number 4 was get your content shared. So think about how can you go a little bit deeper than just the information on your website and create some great content that your ideal client will love and it will share on social media. And then number 5, measure what you're doing.
Right. Man, those are great tips. And I think a lot of those are just really simple solutions. And, I think a lot of things that people don't really think about much when they're first getting their website set up. So that's great. Great.
Yeah.
So, well, Daniel, I want to be mindful of your time. What sort of parting thoughts do you have with all of this?
I would just say, just take your time with this stuff. I know a lot of people, I hear a lot from my audience where they're just really feeling like, I don't know where to start. I hear that a lot. I don't know where to start with all this stuff. Number 1 is just make sure you have a website. I mean, that's just kind of like foundation. It's just foundation to marketing in this modern world. And I always say something that is it doesn't have to be perfect, but at least get something up, get something there. And then you start adding those layers. Maybe you start digging into who is my ideal client, and then you start rewriting some of those pages. Take it one step at a time. You don't have to do everything. And I know that there's a lot of folks out there who hate this technology stuff, and I want them to know that is okay, and they don't have to be the one to do it. And there are plenty of people out there who would love to help them.
Right. Well, that's great, Daniel. Tell folks again how they can get in touch with you and where you can be found.
Yeah, so you can find me at privatepracticeelevation.com, and that's where you'll find all of our services. And we do website redesign and SEO services, blog writing services, WordPress maintenance, all that stuff. And you'll also find the podcast over there, and you can just search on iTunes for that. And for the DIY folks, we have createmytherapistwebsite.com, where you'll learn a little bit more hands-on, step-by-step, and some of our online courses are found over there.
Right. And we'll have links in the show notes for all this stuff. And so be sure to check it out. So Daniel, thanks again. And thanks for doing the redo.
My pleasure.
Glad you were willing to do that. And so
no problem.
I'm sure we'll be talking again.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks so much, Gordon. I appreciate it. It's been fun.
Yep. Well, again, I'm so grateful to Daniel for joining me on the podcast today. He's such a great guy, and I just always enjoy talking to him. And I'm particularly grateful for him to do the redo of this particular episode. It just with that computer snafu and the computer crash, it's just always a hair-pulling experience, and I just don't have that much hair to pull anymore. But anyway, I'm so glad you've joined me for this episode. Be sure and check out Daniel's things and there'll be links in the show notes there. He's got some great materials, and be sure to get the free PDF download around the topic we talked about today, about 5 ways to improve your website that you can do now to improve your website. And also be sure to check out, be sure to go over and do the survey. I would really appreciate it that I mentioned at the beginning. It's just a survey about focus groups or mastermind groups. And you can get to that if you go to practiceoftherapy.com/mastermind, and you can see the link there to take the survey. I promise you it will only take about 2 minutes, and I just really would be helpful to get your feedback. And also be sure to check out my friend David Hall's course on just conducting a continuing education event. Again, it's going to be just a short window of time here where the course is going to be available and up until February the 17th. But if you'll go over to practiceoftherapy.com/CE course, you can find out more about that. So be sure to check that out as well. So that's it for today, folks. So glad you've joined me for the podcast. Be sure to check out our today's sponsor for the podcast, TherapyNotes.com. And they are the #1 electronic health record system for therapists. And if you'll use the coupon code Gordon, just GORDON, you can get your first 2 months of their services free. They're who I use in my practice, and absolutely I couldn't live without them. They're really the hub of our practice in terms of documentation and appointments and all of the things that you need to run an efficient private practice. So take care, folks. I hope you have a good rest of your week and your weekend, wherever you might or whenever you might be listening to this. Take care. Been listening to the Practice of Therapy podcast with Gordon Brewer. Please visit us at practiceoftherapy.com for more information, resources, and tools to help you in starting, building, and growing your private practice. And if you haven't done so already, please sign up to receive the free private practice startup guide at practiceoftherapy.com. The information in this podcast is intended to be accurate and authoritative concerning the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, or producers are rendering legal, accounting, or clinical advice. If you need a professional, you should find the right person for that.